Hi, and welcome to another video from a plaintruth.info. Today I want to get some information out about the top Vatican astronomer, Jesuit astronomer, a guy named Guy J. Consolmagno. It's the Jesuits who run the astronomy. It's the Jesuits who tell us the story of their cosmology about Earth and also control the Big Bang Theory. It all comes out of the Vatican. In fact, very few are aware that the Vatican is the largest and longest owner of patents for telescopes and observatories. In 1600, as we'll get into a little while later, the Vatican established the first observatories in the United States. In 1540s, right after they founded the Loyola St. Ignatius Society of Jesus, they went into India and Chinese to teach astronomy. But what I want to focus on today is Father Consolmagno and his bio. I mean, this guy is a rocket scientist, if you want to call it, degrees in MIT, University of Arizona, doctorate, Harvard University, taught there, MIT, joined the Peace Corps. He entered the Society of Jesus, took vows in 1991. And also that an asteroid was even named after the guy. The International Atomic Union named it as Little Guy. He's a popular speaker as well, a writer of popular science, because it's all fiction, folks. He's been a guest in honor at several science fiction conventions. And he also has an honorary doctorate from Georgetown University, the head of the Jesuits. So you can see this guy is fully infiltrated into the Jesuits and the Jesuit story. He's also known as the Pope's astronomer and was named by Pope Francis to be the director of the Vatican Observatory in 2015. So let's hear what he had to say in 2008 in this very telling story about how they're coming out with the Flat Earth story, and we'll get into that a little more after we hear him talk.
A couple of years ago, I was asked to do a Bible study group. I'm thinking Catholics don't do Bible studies, you know. And to do a Bible study group in Houston. Catholics definitely don't do Bible studies in Texas. To do a Bible study group in Houston with a bunch of astronauts. Astronauts, oh, I could do that, yeah. So I wound up at a dinner evening of about 12 couples, all of them astronauts and spouses. One of the guys, half of them were Catholic as it turns out, so much for Catholics not doing Bible studies. One of the guys came up to me and said, you know, I just want to let you know, I believe in the absolute truth that creation was made in the 6 days just as described in the book of Genesis. And that's my religion. I just want to let you know that ahead of time. And I'm thinking, you know, have you actually read Genesis? Where it says the world is flat and it's covered with a dome and there's water above and below the dome, you know. Where does the shuttle go? How come you don't get wet? But then he told me a little bit more. He said, you know, before he was an astronaut, he was a test pilot. Test pilots, you don't want to have the habit of creatively reinterpreting their written instructions. Just another owner's manual. Because that's the way they view the world. Whereas in the ancient world, you know, what are the oldest books we have? The Iliad, the Odyssey, they're poems. They're books of poetry. And the world was interpreted in terms of metaphor and simile. And of course, the crazy thing is, science itself is metaphor and simile. Newton's equation for the fall of a rock due to the laws of gravity is a poem. It says the path of this falling rock is like the solution to this equation. It's not that they're the same thing. In solution to this equation. It's not that they're the same thing. You know, the sad thing of that statement about evolution being proved, evolution is not going to be proved. Nothing in science is ever proved. Nothing in science is ever proved. Science describes, it doesn't prove. I've got two really thick books on my shelf back in Castor Gandolfo. One of them is a Bible, and the other is a book by Misner, Thorne, and Wheeler called Gravitation. And this is, you know, about that thick, and it's all about Einstein's general theory of relativity. The Bible's 3,000 years old. The Gravitation book is 25 years old. The Gravitation book is out of date. It's obsolete. The Gravitation book is out of date. It's obsolete. Science books go obsolete. They're supposed to. You know, 1,000 years from now, our science, our understanding of evolution, our understanding of the solar system, our understanding of the Big Bang is going to be completely different than what it is now. I hope.
Are you saying, though, that then the problem is that on one level science is dominated by these kind of fundamentalist techies who can't read a text other than in a fundamentalist way?
There is an element of that. I wouldn't say it's dominated by it.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing is most religious people are not arch creationist fundamentalists. Most evangelicals are not. But those are the ones you see on TV. You know, the sad thing of that statement about evolution being proved, evolution is not going to be proved. Nothing in science is ever proved. So I'm thinking, you know, have you actually read Genesis? Where it says the world is flat and it's covered with a dome and there's water above and below the dome, you know. Where does the shuttle go? How come you don't get wet?
So there you have the top Vatican official right next to the Pope advising him about astronomy, telling everyone that to interpret the Bible and just what it says the earth is flat. Now here we have over 35 lunar craters that are named after Jesuit astronomers. These guys have been rolling and telling the story of our cosmology about a heliocentric Earth for 500 years, portraying themselves as the bad guys who were proven wrong by science. Where here we have their top scientists that went to MIT, that went to Harvard, you know, all the degrees and everything, the top spokesmen going to sci-fi fiction comedy con events. You know, here's a guy saying seriously that, you know, we got to take the Earth as being flat, and that the genesis of our evolution is going to show that gravity is debunked. He hopes. This is what the man says. But here you can see that the Lucifer project is a satanic telescope taking over Indian Native American burial grounds for their purposes. And then look at the history, folks. Look at the history of all the astronomers since the 1540s that have gone all around the world, the Jesuits, who have preached their version of the heliocentric theory. This is how it all got started. I'll put this in the show notes, but just look at from the 1650s all the way through to the 1900s into the 20th century with Einstein. These guys were all influential around the world. The Jesuits were telling the story of the heliocentric story, which allegedly that Galileo and Copernicus had completely debunked. Does that make a sense to anyone of why the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church and the Jesuits would be promoting and observing the stars in the heavens when the Bible is their book that they go by? Well, there was a reason for doing all this that we'll get into in a minute. So this was taken from a Christian site, World's Last Chance, talking about Copernicus and how he was in bed with the Pope. He dedicated his book to Pope Paul III. He was a Third Order of St. Dominic. He wished to pursue astrology and astronomy. There was a vacant seat on the Ermland, and makes it probable, at least later in life, that he'd enter the priesthood. And then between 1539 and 1541, a 66, there's the number page letter, were published and distributed. But opposition was first raised against the Copernican system by Protestant theologians for biblical reasons. Why would Roman Catholic leaders persistently pressure Copernicus to publicize his theories of a heliocentric universe, theories for which they condemned Galileo less than 100 years later? It doesn't make any sense. They published it on his deathbed. He would not publish it during his lifetime. Here the article states, "It cannot be overstated that the Catholic Church was the force behind Copernicus, persistently urging the reluctant cleric to spread abroad his heliocentric theories that contradicted Scripture. The newly formed Jesuits were the perfect instruments to effect a clandestine operation, changing public perception of the authority of the Scripture, the earth, and the Creator. The difference between the Jesuits and all other Catholic orders was the Jesuits deliberately invited demonic spirits into their followers." And he goes on, "The Jesuits have always been enemies of the Bible, since the Catholic Church ranks papal decree and tradition above the Scriptures anyway. Decreasing confidence in the Scripture increases confidence in pastors, priests, and the Pope as authorities that we know more than the common man can. We are the authority, believe us, don't read the Bible." That was the whole counter-Reformation, the Protestants against the church, when the church says, you have to follow me, I'm the vicar, the closest to God, don't listen to the Bible, listen to me, the Pope. And it's been that way ever since. So here we have massive evidence starting back from the mid-1600s or 1550s all the way through today, where the Jesuits are controlling the narrative about space. And also it goes back to Newton. I didn't cover him, but Newton's third edition of his basic book on the theory of gravity was published by the Jesuits and was very well used. Again, folks, the Catholics and the Jesuits have controlled the mindset of our minds about what the theocosmology is of the world. They also control the Big Bang Theory. They've controlled it all. And they've used stories about some brilliant man named Einstein who came up with all this when it's absolutely fraudulent. This guy was a complete fraud. He plagiarized others' works. He's been condemned by others in his fields. German and Austrian scientists condemned his work when it came out. It's been condemned by brilliant Nikola Tesla as well. The guy has been proven to be an out-and-out fraud, yet all you hear today is how great and how smart Einstein is, because people just don't want to wake up and don't want to learn very inconvenient truths about how the world really works. So now I want to turn the attention around to the Flat Earth community, and I want to see how many in our Flat Earth community that's been active for now a couple, 3 years have been covering the Jesuits. Rob Skiba, the Christian? No. Mark Sargent? No. Celebrate Truth, Robbie Davidson? No. Jeranism, Globebusters? No. Eric DeBay? Hell no. It's all about the Jews and the Freemasons. Patricia Steers? Of course not. Russian vids? Forget about it. No one can touch the Jesuits because they're all controlled opposition, folks. The Flat Earth Conference going on in November, it's all the Christians putting them on, but did they talk about Jesuits at all? Do they talk about how their Christian faith has been betrayed by the scheming Jesuits? No, you don't hear any of that at all. So here's the next hand I think is going to be played by the Jesuits in the ongoing conquer and divide strategy when they brought out the Flat Earth with Eric E.D. DeBay. I think they're coming out with this guy named Robert Sungenis. Get it? Sungenis? Sungenis, because they're Apollo, sun-worshipping gods. There's these books came out starting in, I believe, 2013, 2014, and it's all talking about geocentrism. It's not talking about a flat earth or an infinite plane as a newly created meme as by the Infinite Plane Society and all the baloney going on with Math Powerland and the using his name and billboards. No, this is books coming out, somewhat scholarly books. I have them, and they're not that well scholared or written well. But it is about making the case that the Catholic Church is going to come out and claim that they were right all along, that the geocentrism is about what it's really at. And this book by Mr. Sungenis, or these many books, he's got several of them, is indications that they're going to be playing this geocentrism, proving Galileo was wrong and the Church was right. That's one of the books they have out already. So is this priming the pump? Is this getting us ready for the next meme? And we're going to argue now with all the flat earth apologists out there that I just listed. Are they going to start arguing back and forth now? That seems to be the case, folks. But please make up your own mind. Do your own homework. Do your own research. This stuff has been going on for a very long time. The cat's out of the bag, and it can no longer be put back. And it's time for us all to get out and start speaking our truth. Talk to you soon. Plain Truth. Catch you in the next video. Thanks for listening. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to mention is those of you who don't think that the world is controlled by the Vatican, I want you to Google or look up the founding of Washington, D.C., which I'm coming up with in the next video, because no one knows the founding of Washington, D.C. It used to be named Rome, Maryland. Yes, Rome, Maryland used to be the name of Washington, D.C., the city of Rome, before it was turned into Washington, D.C. by John Carroll, the Jesuit who founded Georgetown. The Potomac was also called the Tiber.
Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
Well, why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. And 15 minutes ago, you knew that people were alone on this planet.
I wanted to announce my book launch today, Flat Earth, Investigations into a Massive 500-Year Heliocentric Lie. It's 180 pages. I'm offering the book in both black and white and in color. I'm covering many topics, including the 5,000-year history of flat Earth theocosmology, also covering what the heliocentric theory is and why it doesn't make any sense upon even the most curious of examinations. I'm also include a lot of quotes from the Bible, from the Quran, about flat Earth cosmology, also including the ancients' cosmology by the Cherokees, the Mayans, the Toltecs, the Asians, the Far Easterns, the Vedics, the Tibetans, the Norwegians, all had flat Earth cosmology that we were never educated about in school, and I find that also very curious, but you can learn in this book. I also cover many of the different subjects that we've talked about in Flat Earth over the past few years. Onward, Flat Nation.
They must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society. They would not have believed that the world was round. They must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society. They must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society. They would not have believed that the world was round. They would not have believed that the world was round.
If I say that the world is round and someone else says it's flat, that's worth reporting.
Or half to one of each side. And if someone says the Earth is round and someone says the Earth is flat, at some point you're going to make a judgment. The Earth is flat people is just flat out wrong.
Hey, is it worth it?
Oh yeah, it's worth it. If you're strong enough.